a familiar face and voice to Palm Beach County and the Treasure Coast, and really a national superstar, especially in the sphere of college basketball. Dusty May was applauding as well as we hear Danny Wolf goes to the Nets 27th overall last night in the first round of the NBA draft. Dusty May, the head coach of the Michigan Wolverines, formerly the FAU men's basketball head coach. And today, he's just our buddy talking on Theoretically Speaking. Dusty, man, how's it been?
Hey, Theo, it's been great, man. It's been a blast.
Man, I'm so happy for you and your success your first year at Michigan, and I'm also happy that you were able to see off one of your stars from the tournament that we saw you make the run into the Sweet 16, go into the NBA. What was that moment like for you? I saw what it was like for Danny, his family, and his brother specifically, who was ugly crying on TV. Were you ugly crying like that as well?
No, I feel bad. His brother's Jake, and to be honest, Danny is very driven, and it was a tough night for him, just waiting, and his brother Jake actually held it together. We were laughing at the table that we had such positive vibes, despite being a little bit there longer than we thought he would be. And then as soon as his name was called, though, Jake let out some emotion, and I think it was just unfair for the one guy that really held it in the road for several hours that day. Got caught on camera, but it was a very cool moment. That's one thing when you see these guys, especially the international players, how appreciative they are, how grateful they are, and the humility that they accept wherever they're drafted with was impressive. So, yeah, it's just really cool to be a part of, to see so many of those guys achieve their dreams.
I absolutely loved it, though, because it's showing the raw emotion of how much it mattered to them. I could also tell you for sure it was one of those production moments where they saw Jake, you said his name is, with that face, and they were like, we've got to show it, because some of these guys are too cool for school. Clearly, Wolf, his family, and you all weren't, so I appreciate that. Happy for him. For you as a head coach, is that your first time hearing one of your players' name called in the first round?
As a head coach, yes. I'm new to this level, and obviously when you're at a Michigan or a place like this, it happens more frequently, typically. And so, it especially when it was unexpected. Danny came to us, and we never would have dreamed a year ago that he would be in this position. We thought potentially after next year he could be in this in a similar situation, but never did we dream that would happen this quickly. And so, yeah, that makes it even cooler. But it helps in recruiting. As a coach, the coaching staff, there's certain things that you have to do before you could be at the biggest tables with the best recruits. So this was one step for us selfishly, but we certainly didn't want to hijack his moment. That was it was all about Danny, his family, his work, and then also his teammates, because without the sacrifice of them and all of his coaches throughout the years, he wouldn't be where he is. And then obviously his support system is as strong as there is.
Dusty May joining us here on Theoretically Speaking on this Thursday ahead of day 2 of the NBA draft. You've already heard one of your players' names called. Another guy who is a familiar face to this area, Vlad Golden, big man now at Michigan with you, is expecting to hear his name called in the second round. What kind of questions, what is it like fielding questions from teams who are, deciding on whether or not they want to make him the newest member of their organization?
Well, when you have guys like we've had, it's fun because you get to tell their story, and you're not trying to hide anything or cover up anything or embellish who they are. You simply you paint a real clear picture of who they are and what they are, and usually that's enough. So I think Vlad's going to hear his name called. I think Elijah's going to hear his name called, and then I think John L. has an outside chance to hear his name called tonight as well. So South Florida should be proud of this year's draft.
Of course, you naming Elijah Martin and Janelle Davis, the two of the other guys that was with you at FAU that made the run to the Final Four, a shot away from making it to the national championship game there in Houston. This means so much to this area to not only experience that alongside you all, but now see y'all's career as they blossom in other places. But what was it like for you as well, watching Elijah Martin, who likely hears his name called tonight, but he also was able to hoist the big trophy, in the national championship game with the Florida Gators?
Well, just extremely happy for him, and to see him continue his growth and development, and to do that on the biggest stage again in a completely different environment. He went into that program and he imposed his will and put his stamp on it. So I became a fan of those guys. Obviously, I would have loved to coach that group forever. If I could coach 20 years, coach all of them for 20 years. But realistically, things changed in the new climate. This is the new normal. So I was just a fan of all those guys, and to see even the emergence of Brennan Laurier and Trey Carroll, guys who sacrificed on those really good teams and sacrificed minutes on those really good teams, to see them have their own individual success and team success this year, it was a lot of fun on all fronts.
When you see that happening, like now today, I remember back in 2023 when FAU made that run from Columbus to New York, and you're every step of the way people doubted that team, and now there's so much credit not just being given to you, but the very players that were on that roster. Do you think that people are going to think less or more of your coaching ability, though, because you're about to have 4 former pros on that team? Y'all weren't the underdogs or Cinderellas. You had some pro talent on that squad.
Well, I don't think there's ever been a team play that late in the NCAA tournament without really good players. So, without a doubt, the lion's share of that credit should go to those guys and the work they put into it. Look, we get a coach for 30, 40 years if we can do it well enough to keep jobs. And these guys have a short window, and I'm just proud to be associated with that group. But I do think we created a learning environment, a healthy environment for them to be their absolute best and develop. And so, yes, we had a small part in all that success, but the credit should always go to the players.
Knew you would do that, as Dusty May does, giving the credit to the guys out there on the court that make the plays for you. Question, man, what's the setup like tonight? Are y'all back there for the draft, watching it from home? What's the Dusty May setup to watch round 2 tonight?
No, actually, I'm traveling with a group, and recruiting period tomorrow. So we're trying to find the next pros, the next guys that get drafted tonight. But I know Elijah's in Brooklyn. John L's back with his family in Gary. Vlad's in Florida with some family, with his fiance's family. So everyone's with their loved ones. Everyone has a different way to go about this. So it's going to be fun just watching those guys. And to be honest, it's going to be a positive either way, because I know a lot of teams like those guys. So if they happen to not get drafted, they're probably going to be in a better situation to choose where they have a greater chance of making a roster or being with a team long term.
Question for you: What is it like there at the draft when you are watching some of the prospects go off the board, and you know that your guy Wolf has the talent, has all the ability, and you likely have spoken to a lot of these teams as he's worked out for them? What is it like for you in those moments? How are you speaking to him to make sure he keeps his mind right as he's waiting to hear his name called?
Well, first, this was my rookie year with this, so I don't want to speak like a seasoned vet, but we had a good idea of which teams really liked Danny, the ones that had been in and done some homework, and we just knew there was a group of teams that we thought. And then there were even 2 teams that we were very confident that he would not get past those teams. So we felt like there was a really nice security blanket, which should have eliminated stress. But it's just going through it, and that 5 minutes between each draft pick is agonizing. But some of the picks, there might be 2 or 3 picks in consecutive order where you're not going to be in play at those picks for a number of reasons. And then there's other teams trying to trade up to get you, but if they're able to make a trade, then they're going to draft you. If they can't make the trade, then you're off the table there. So there's a lot of moving parts. I think the agents have the stressful job as anyone because they're trying to stay composed, but they're also trying to give feedback. So as far as what I was telling Danny, that 1 year ago I was arguing with his parents about if he was going to be able to play more than 15 or 20 minutes a game for some Michigan. And now he's sitting up there, wondering which team he's going to be drafted by in the first round of the NBA draft. So just take a step back, have some perspective. But, he handled it with grace and humility like all those guys did last night. It was just impressive to see their life work come down to that one pivotal moment. It's not really one moment, but it seems like it. And so, like I said, we just wanted to be there to support and be out of the way, but also, put Michigan in that spotlight.
And lastly, from you, Dusty May, I'm just curious. I mean, how often? I know that you're further removed from it. You've had a full first season at Michigan where you guys were great, made the Sweet 16, went 27-10, won the Big Ten tournament. But I'm just curious, how often do people still ask questions about that magical FAU Final Four run, which I'm sure there's going to be like 8 documentaries out of it, especially as we see these guys go off to the pros and see you do great in the maize and blue. Just how often are you asked about that and speak on those days in Boca Raton?
Well, I think I was asked probably 20, 25 times last night. I feel like everywhere I go, I run into people that live in Boca or South Florida, and Michigan has a really close connection to Boca and South Florida. It seems like there's a lot of people. For our basketball camp, there were several South Florida families that brought their kids up. There are several families that we became close with during our time there that would come up and watch a game during the year. So it's frequent, but FAU means so much to all of us. Most of our staff was there. Obviously, Vlad, our families. I mean, my sons went to high school there. I mean, FAU is, I'm from Indiana, but FAU feels just as much home. Boca Raton community feels just as much home as anywhere else. And my oldest son, Jack's still in South Florida, so we still have a lot of ties, and we're still really connected with most of the people at FAU and follow all the sports and programs closely and can't believe how much they continue to grow and become a national brand.
Absolutely, and we're loving every second of it, and we appreciate your part in that journey because certainly what y'all did in 2023 helped proliferate all of this. Again, Dusty May joining us here. Congratulations on the success. Congratulations on that contract extension, and also good luck to all of the guys you're tied to that's getting drafted. Every time I talk to you, it's a new contract extension, man.
I tell the story. Brian White, after our first year at FAU, he extended us after the first year, and I told that's something that as a coach you're very appreciative of, because it's not as if we set the world on fire that first year. We started off well, had some adversity, but that was a big part of us being able to make decisions long term because we had job security. We could always make decisions based on what was best for the program and its long term growth. And so very grateful for that. And also, hey, man, congrats on all your success. I see your face and hear your voice a lot. So that's a good sign when you're in the media.
That's love, Dusty. I appreciate that. And also, just when we hang up here, just send me the number to your agent. And I'll look, I'll get him to work some deals on my behalf, too.
Let's do it. I appreciate you having me on.
Thanks, Dusty. That is Dusty May, head coach of Michigan.